Hey everybody, happy Free Tip Friday. Oh my gosh, if it's Friday and it's beadshop.com and I'm Kate Richburg, then it must be Free Tip Friday. Well, hello to everyone. I hope everyone's had a great and creative week out there. We have here at beadshop.com, we've been super busy. It's been a great, fun week. I'm here in front of the camera, and Grace Nolan is womaning, I should say womaning the camera, not manning the camera, behind the scenes. And today we're going to be talking about seed beads, our new seed bead mix, and some tips. It's going to kind of piggyback almost kind of a little bit on what we did with looming, since we did work with seed beads and bugles on Wednesday, and last week's Free Tip Friday, which was the many moods of thread, and we're going to talk a little bit more about thread today. So how are you doing, Grace?
Good, how are you, Kate?
I'm hanging in there.
I'm excited to see what you're doing with the seed bead mix.
Me too. You know, I've confessed this before, that I don't always super prep, so we have, we're working a little bit on the fly today, but I'm kind of excited to share that design way with you.
Can we
Yes.
just ask if people can hear me better from where I'm situated?
Oh yeah, you know, you guys, we've moved Grace around. We know that you guys have had a little bit of trouble sometimes hearing her during the broadcast, or whoever is behind the camera. So let us know. Give us a thumbs up if you can. Say hi to everybody, Gracie.
Hi, everybody.
All right. So hopefully you'll be able to hear her a little bit better. And as you guys know, while people are jumping on and saying hello, on Wednesday we've got a great show planned for you. Janice is back. She's flying. She's in the air, I think, as we speak, flying back to the West Coast, and she'll be on our Wednesday Facebook Live broadcast. We have such an amazing project for you, and we'll have more info about that this weekend and at the beginning of next week. So that's what's going on. How are people doing, Grace?
Everyone's doing really well.
Excellent.
I love how your mom calls me Gracie Grace.
I love that too.
Gita's on this Friday. Jackie's on. Lynn is on.
Yay.
Ginger's on. Mary says hi. Bonnie says hi. We have
Hey
tons
everybody,
of hellos.
hello.
But we still haven't had an answer to our question if you can hear
Oh
me
yes,
or not.
can everybody hear Gracie?
So excited to
right?
say hi.
It's great. Hello, hello, and let us know if Grace is coming through loud and clear. And also, Ma, since you're on, the UPS or the FedEx guy just came and the quilt got delivered. So just so you know, my mom and I are making a quilt for our upcoming family reunion for my husband's family. So my mom just sewed the last bit of binding on, because I hate to do bindings, I'll tell you. But it's here, Ma. It arrived safely. So just to let you know, I don't have to call you now. I can tell you right here on Facebook Live. All right. Well, shall we jump in, Grace?
My audio is clear.
Audio is clear. Yay.
Sounds good.
Excellent. So, you guys, you may have seen in some of our newsletters, we've started this kind of a new fun thing. It's our seed bead mix of the month, and I'm holding a tube of it right here. Yeah, you're going to zoom in tightly. This was kind of the joint brainchild of Grace and Jen, and it's our first one. And you know, we're known for our kind of fun seed bead mixes that we've done as giveaways on Facebook Live and stuff, but we decided to make one for sale. And so this one is for July 2017, and it's called Strawberry Lemonade, which is perfect for the summer. So, Grace, what was your design influence on this guy?
Oh, I was
Did
just
you
reading
have
the
one?
comments. I'm sorry. No, we were just pulling some fresh ideas that we thought could be better represented on the site and weren't really being represented. So we just were like, let's have some fun with these mixes.
Yeah, and
we
with a
talked about
fresh
the
colorway.
textures.
Yeah.
And so we had pulled a few different color palettes, and this is the one we decided to debut with Strawberry Lemonade. Like you said, it's a refreshing palette for midsummer.
For midsummer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pour some of it out here just so you guys can see it. It's a seed bead mix, as I said, and it has, should I put it in this dish? Should I put it on the...
Do you want to move the camera soon? Or?
Yeah, let's move the camera down so everybody can kind of see what I'm doing. Let's resituate you guys, and then you guys can see me a little bit better. Do we want to move that down and then let's look at that. You guys can see that pretty well, I think, and I can see what's going on pretty well. There we go. Getting the shot in. Okay, move it towards me. There we go.
Yes.
Working backwards, working with this camera. It's like dancing backwards in heels, you guys. So bear with me here just a second. So the seed bead mix that we've got here, this has a whole bunch of different seed bead sizes in it, including 6/0, which I've got right here, some 8/0, and some 11/0. And aren't they just a beautiful, beautiful mix? They're some of our newest seed beads. We've got some of these new ones in this mix as well. So I just love it. And so when we thought about, how we were going to use this seed bead mix, a couple of ideas came to mind. One, at the end of this month, Emily and I have seed bead school again, and we're going to be doing, it's a regular 2-drop peyote stitch. But peyote stitch is kind of my go-to seed bead stitch. It's the one that I use a lot, or really the one that I only know how to use. And this one, this would be great for some freeform peyote, where you just kind of go for it. And the different sizes of beads make your piece kind of undulate a little bit. I don't know if that's the right word, but I like it. It's a good Friday word. But also you could, if you wanted some of that kind of irregular kind of stringing, you could loom with this. You could, like Grace and I were showing on the looming broadcast on Wednesday, the Lalique looming. If you were looming with this, what I would do, let me see if I can make my fingers work to get these little beads on here. If you can see, these are like the size 8s and this is a size 11. So it's almost like 2 size 8s equal an 11, or maybe an 8. No, I'm sorry, that's a size 6. 2 size 8s equal almost a size 6. If that makes sense.
Let me zoom in on that.
Zoom in a little bit tighter. There we go, so you can see it a little bit better. So as you loom with kind of an eclectic mix like this, you'd kind of fill in the spaces and choose beads that kind of made up the little spaces, kind of like you're playing Tetris with these seed beads, if that makes sense. So every little loomed line you go in, you kind of bunch things up. It's going to look fairly irregular, but I also think it might look kind of interesting, and it might be a cool way to experiment by adding this with looming. So those are both some ideas, more traditional seed beads. But let me show you guys what I've come up with. What I've used, and I'm going to put this lid on here. We can zoom out a little bit, Gracie. Oh, see how good you are? What I've used is I've used 1 tube of the strawberry lemonade mix. I used 1 strand of the shadows, and this is what I had left after I used it. And I used 1 bag of the Tiara Hishi, the Tiara Cast Hishi, which is these. And I used every single piece of that 50-piece bag, and those are already in here. So these don't come in the mix. I just added these into the mix. And then I thought, yes, Grace?
Well, from what I understand, what Jackie's saying is maybe even memory wire for a bracelet with this.
Oh my gosh, of course. Yeah. Jackie, why I didn't even, I was so fiber focused that I didn't even think about memory wire. But you know what? 1 of these plus 1 seed bead tube, or 1 strand of memory wire, that'll look great.
And Karen wants to know what little shadows are.
So Karen, little shadows are some of you who watch me a lot know that these little shadows are my very most favorite beads in the whole wide world. They're on the wall behind me. They're a little metal hexagon bead. I'm just going to pull a few off the wall so you guys can see them. But you can find them on our site, beadshop.com.
I don't know if they can hear you.
Come off there. Can
Maybe
you guys?
they can.
Okay, can you hear me now? They're on our site on beadshop.com, and they look like this. Aren't those amazing? I'll pull them into the shot right there. There you go. That's my favorite, the little shadows. And they're also great for looming. They're good for so many projects. And then I also used the one package. Can you guys see that here? The Tirahishi. Hey, if somebody in the filling room would toss me a bag of gold Tirahishi, I wouldn't say no. See how that kind of maybe Tirahishi. See that, Kara? Makes it magically appear. Bam! They're so good, especially when I'm not prepared. But that's what the full bag looks like. So I used all 50 pieces of those in this piece.
Kathy's also saying that this would be great for an anklet.
Yes, it would, especially for summer, for sure. So yesterday when I was thinking about what I wanted to do with this project, I hollered over at Gracie and I said, "Hey, Grace." And Grace said, "Yes, Kate." And I said, "Well, let's start tossing around. I'm going to start tossing around some ideas for kind of using this piece." And I started with fiber because I thought, you know, one of these strands would really kind of, or one of these tubes rather, might be kind of fun to mix with the different fibers that we carry. And kind of like the Odyssey project, I'll pull this in. You guys have seen Odyssey, right? Does this fit in the shot okay? Odyssey, if those of you who are familiar with this project, it's on Irish wax linen, and it has some piche, it has some cubes, and you can see that this closure is a button closure with some macrame.
I'm going to pull it
back a little bit. Okay. So this is our classic Odyssey. So that was my inspiration for this piece. So this is kind of an Odyssey derivative, I guess. Okay. So the thread, so instead of just limiting myself to the Irish wax linen, I also grabbed some regular Ceylon and I grabbed some Chinese knotting cord. And after kind of a thread summit here at the old bead table, this is kind of the color palette that we came up with. And we tossed threads in, we pulled threads out, and you can see that we really took it. I'm going to use the open dish. I'm going to use this open dish. There we go. We really used, we kind of pulled the colors out of the mix, but we didn't pull the exact colors. I mean, we have this Chinese knotting cord. This is, I think, coral maybe. And so we took that influence from this seed bead. We didn't want something super vibrant and yellow, but we wanted something that also kind of had an equal vibrancy, so we chose that orange. And then, of course, we have so many of these soft colors in here, so I thought, let me see if I can skewer that one, that the Irish wax linen would work nicely with that. So that's, you know, we kind of tossed them in and out, auditioned at the threads, as I'd like to say, and this is what we came up with. So then I tossed some of the Irish wax linen over to Grace, and I said, Grace, why don't you go ahead and string up, get a doubled strand, and start stringing this sucker up. And so she did. And what she did was, we did this little knotted section. Can you see that? And then I made a second one. And all we did, you guys, it was super simple. I just took a length. So I thought about length. I thought about how long this piece was going to be. And I thought, well, if I wanted to wear it as a bracelet, 3 wraps for me would be a little over 21 inches. And as a necklace, maybe a choker, 21 inches would also work. So that's kind of what I went on. But that would be my finished length. So I really measured a generous length. I probably rolled off about 50 inches and then just halved it, you know, folded it in half and used it that way. But I'm going to show you just on a shorter abbreviated piece the technique of this one. So with this Irish wax linen, all I did was I got myself a nice long length here. I tied that overhand knot just through once, like so. And then what Grace and I did here was, since it's waxed, you can kind of stiffen it up nicely by just drawing your fingers down. And I just started to string. Now the thing about this Irish wax linen, if you're using a size 11 bead, a size 11 is just a little too small. So we reserved those for other strands. But everything else in this mix, from the 6s to the 11s, worked out beautifully. Can you see that? And again, it does make its own needle because it's waxed, so it has a nice stiffness to it. It makes it easy to string. Any questions so far, Grace?
No, just a lot of behind the scenes comments.
Oh,
you know, like
a lot of chatter.
It's like everyone just comes together at our bead table and they talk all the time.
I love it.
They get to catch up and they have comments, and
I
so
love it.
it's nice.
It is nice. So this overhand knot.
And to Pamela's question, she asked 11s wouldn't work. 11 knots.
No, 11 knots would be a little small for this wax linen. So can you see how I just arbitrarily tie that little section closed? And you can see on this one how, you know, again, they're not very even. And on this one, again, they're large and small.
So 6 aught and 8 aughts definitely work.
Right, 6 and 8.
And then you're using little shadows. And
I did. I used the little shadows and the
Hishi?
Terahishi. Yeah,
Okay.
and those all worked as well. Okay. So then we put these strands aside, and I tackled the Ceylon. Let me bring the Ceylon ones to the fore. This was, so since we didn't use the Ceylon, since we didn't use the 11-aughts in the Irish wax linen, I thought, what the heck? I'm going to use them on the Ceylon strand. And I thought they were so interesting that I wanted to isolate them on their own, so I just strung them on a strand of Ceylon. Grace glanced over to what I was doing, and she said, oh, I really like it. And I was like,
I really
oh,
do like that.
I like that it's kind of rough. It doesn't have, it's not very even, but it really, the contrast between kind of this bone or ivory colored 11-aught and the vibrant orange, I think it's kind of cool.
What I like about it, it has a certain youthfulness to it without being totally youthful.
Right.
I really like that. Like you're saying, it's kind of a rugged finish.
Yeah,
so it
it's
doesn't look so polished,
right.
but it still looks polished.
Right, because I think
the
colors and I think the thread has a nice polished look to it. And you guys, this was so easy. The way I did this was, all I did was, I started, again, leaving myself a nice tail on the end. I made a loop, overhand knot, just the same, tied it tight. Now, it's a little tough to, you could use my trick where we stiffen the end of the Ceylon, like with our glue and stuff like that, to get these on, but it's a little bit of a pain in the butt because that hole is so small. What I did was I used the collapsible eye needle, and I came in, I put my needle on the end, I grabbed my 11-aughts.
You have a few questions.
Yeah, sure.
So
I'll just slide this one on just so you can see, and then I'm ready for questions. Here's the 11-aughts. They come down and the eye collapses of the needle, and see how with just a little tug they go right on the thread. And then I'll just come in. I've got 3. It could be 3, it could be 2, it could be 5, doesn't matter. And again, I don't really measure the space. I just kind of tie my knot and see where everything lands. And then I'm ready to do a next one. So that's how that went. Yeah, sorry, Gracie. Questions then?
Can you just leave that there for a second?
You bet.
Show it.
You bet.
Okay, so the questions were, there are knots in this, and then this is regular Ceylon, correct?
Regular Ceylon, correct. I wanted a little bit of a thicker thread, so that's why I chose it.
And what are you making? A necklace, a bracelet?
Well, I think it'll be either a necklace or a bracelet. This would wrap about 3 times, hence that 21 inches, or it could be a choker style necklace that would sit kind of high up at about 21 inches.
Kim says it reminds her of these old seed bead knotted silk necklaces that she used to make for years, and she says it's a good, quick, casual daily jewelry.
Yeah, it is. It does have kind of a nice casualness to it, but also I think a nice polish. So this was that second strand, the second grouping
Zooming in.
with the Ceylon. Okay.
Hold it there for a second.
Sure. So we've got those 2 techniques. Then I thought, well, since I had 2 strands of the Irish wax linen, I better have 2 strands of the Ceylon.
So it's not doubled though.
This one's not doubled, but this one I did do double. And you can see I'll bring it into the shot here. And can you see how similar it is to the Irish wax linen strand, except when I strung my beads on, I strung them on both strands.
I'm gonna zoom in.
Can you see the difference there? So this one, so it's strung just the same, but instead of leaving one strand bare with one strand of beads on it, this just has a knot, length of beads, a knot, skip an arbitrary space, put another grouping on. So it's kind of a derivative of both this one and this one. And it also gives it, I don't know, it's a little more thread, it's a little thicker, so I think it starts to add to the visual texture of this piece. So that's the second strand of Ceylon. So I've got 2 strands of the wax linen, 2 strands of the Ceylon, and then came my friend, the Chinese knotting cord. And I chose 4mm Chinese knotting cord. Now, Grace, we had some 5mm.
Right.
I've got it right here floating around, and I'll show you the difference between the 4 and the 5. See how the 5, well, the 0.5mm, is a little thicker. 0.4, it's a little thinner. I wanted something, and I could have used both, I guess, or either, I guess, but I wanted the color maybe without a lot of bulk, and I thought that maybe this thin 0.4mm might mix a little bit better with these rather than this heavy one. I don't know. And plus, the 0.4mm doesn't get a lot of love, so I wanted to give it some love, right? But you could use either.
Question about the 11/0 fitting on the doubled Ceylon. Did they?
Yeah.
And Ginger points out that if you use black or browns, this would be a really nice men's necklace or bracelet.
Oh, for sure.
And then Ginger adds blues, greens, etc.
Yeah.
Ginger and Debbie, my goodness.
Those ladies, that's the dueling Ginger
I thought
and
it was
Debs.
Debbie, but it wasn't.
Oh,
sorry, it was
okay.
Ginger just adding to her
Oh,
comment,
okay.
and then
All right.
Debbie just commented.
All right.
I'm sorry, I'm confusing
We
you.
just can't keep up with you ladies. So see, here's the 11/0, and here's the doubled over Ceylon on my collapsible eye needle. And see, that just pulls on, no trouble. So what I did, whoops, am I falling? Is it falling? What I did for the Chinese knotting cord, I started with this strand.
Nice.
And again, my beloved little shadows. And instead of knotting, because the little shadows for such a small bead have kind of a gigantor hole. Let me see if I can flip it so you guys can see that hole is huge. So making a knot for those, I would really have to make a bulky knot, or I would have to bookend it with like the 11/0. So what I did was, and this is kind of a trick that goes back to those old freshwater pearl floats when we do them on what we'd call illusion cord, the clear kind of monofilament. What I did was I put on my shadow, my little shadow, slid it on all the way to the end, and then I just took a stitch through it, going the same direction, and see how that cord just holds the bead in place. If it's not quite in the right place, I'll go ahead and slide it down, then I'll tighten it up, and then I'll do it again. Put on a shadow, or a little shadow. Does it look okay, Jen? Oh, okay. Jen came around. She wanted to check the shot.
Joanne is asking a question more for the end.
Okay.
She wants to know if you're going to use a clasp or a macrame loop.
I don't know. What do you think, Joanne?
You know what's funny?
I don't know. You know what? I think I'll show you what I've chosen, because that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out too. But I think I've made a decision, and I'll tell you.
Ginger calls this a stop bead necklace.
Oh,
and
that's a good idea.
Debbie wants to know if it's a little shadow or an adult shadow.
It's a little shadow.
Okay.
It's a petite shadow, the little ones. And you can see how cool, I think it looks cool, with kind of the loops, and I think it shows off the beauty of that Chinese knotting cord, and it also adds a little extra oomph for that, you know, for that shadow. Gives it a little more color, okay? So, and you could even do a whole necklace. Can you imagine a whole necklace like this of just all of these multiple stranded? Wouldn't that look,
Really
I think
nice.
it would look really
Hold
cool.
on. Stay there, Kate.
Stay there, Richburg. Don't move. And again, this is CKC, Chinese knotting cord, 0.4 millimeter. Okay. So that was this guy. So that was that strand. Then I thought, well, if I have 2 of the Irish wax linen, 2 of the Ceylon, we better have 2 of the Chinese knotting cord. So I had just enough Hishi left to make these little stations. And so all I did was, and you can see, I mimicked the same thing that I did on the Irish wax linen, except I strung 2 Hishi on one strand and 2 of the little shadows on the other and made the knot. So that's it. So that lines up in here just perfectly.
Do you want to hear a funny question?
Sure.
Could you use this with soft flex?
I could. So I've got some soft flex actually sitting here,
That's
and
what
it is a
started the
funny
whole
question. It is what started the whole thing. So you can see I've got soft flex sitting right here. And I was thinking about stringing some on soft flex or making little crimped stations like we did with the float away. That was it, right? Something like that. I could also incorporate it here like that. At that point, I would probably then put all of this in a clasp. I would crimp this on a clasp and then knot all of these off. So I think since I decided I want to do a macrame closure, I didn't add the soft flex. But you could treat the soft flex just like thread. This soft flex could live under macrame closure too. So I don't want to rule it out. It's kind of cool. And I think it adds kind of an interesting vibe to it.
Can
Yes.
I do like a little, like, not a shout out, but a promo that's going on?
Yes.
So a lot of people are talking about how they can't live without these little shadows.
Oh, yes.
We have a 20% off metal bead sale
Yeah.
for the weekend through Monday.
Right. Well, it's on your, it's in your newsletter at 15.
Well, you got to store white at 15.
Right, at 15, and there
combine it.
you can combine it with our 10% that's going on now. So they're so,
Because there's like
There's
this whole
such a deal.
conversation about
Yeah.
little shadows and needing more
right?
of them.
So
it's like,
if you guys, over the weekend, if you go to our metal beads category, you'll see little shadows are on sale. And open up your newsletter. I'll give you the code at the end of the broadcast. It'll knock an extra 15%, so you can stack that savings. So it's even more than 20%
and the
off,
Hishi.
right?
And Kim just said
And
that
the
too,
Hishi,
right?
yeah, do it, do it.
Gita in
Get
all
it
caps
now.
says, I know and I need more.
Right? Oh, Gita, our lovely friend from Denmark. So our last thing that I did, I thought, you know what, this looked good, if I do say so myself.
I like
I
it.
thought it looked all right. But I was over in the filling room, and we had an extra piece of 1 millimeter leather hanging around. And I thought, well, if I wanted to add more texture, I could by adding a couple of strands of 1 millimeter leather. I mean, and you could or you couldn't. It doesn't really matter, whatever works for you. But I thought it was kind of interesting. And it also shows, Grace had reminded me, in this Odyssey project we did a few Facebook Lives back, maybe at the beginning of the year. What I did with this Odyssey was I put little pops of color and did some macrame along the strands. Well, I did that same thing, except I silk wrapped here, here, and here. And silk wrapping, you guys, is super easy to do. We have instructions. If you go under our projects page on beadshop.com and you go to our skill builders, you'll see that there is a skill builder on how to silk wrap. But I'm going to show you just real quick. We're almost done for the day, but I'm going to show you this, and then I want to show you how I close it. So we're going a little long.
Karen's waiting. She's anticipating for her strawberry tube to arrive today.
Yay!
So I hope you love it.
Yeah, we've got plenty in stock, you guys. So grab yours. They are limited, but we do have them there for you. It's such a pretty mix. So the way that I did this leather strand, I just did, and you can start in the middle or at the end, doesn't matter. And you're going, Kate, how long is this piece? Well, I don't know. It's maybe almost a yard, I guess. Piece of scrap leather. And all I did was I made my loop, and you've seen me do this knot before. I go through once, I go through twice. Am I in frame enough, Grace?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I'm trying to...
That's okay. You're trying to do multiple things. And see how I just tie that knot, how it looks like a little figure 8. And I just get it in there nice and tight. Can you see that? Then I'll tie another one, just an arbitrary length. You do what feels right for you. Go through, let it knot. You're the boss of that leather. Okay. Now this is a perfect place to add that silk wrap. So I'm going to use, I could use my CKC, or I could use my, I could use my Ceylon or my Chinese knotting cord, my CKC. I could do either. But since I started with the Ceylon, I'll continue with the Ceylon. And I'll cut, I don't know, I know what you're asking me, Kate, how long are you going to cut this thread? I'll tell you, I'm going to cut it 8 inches. How's that for a measurement? Now, just very quickly, you can consult our skill builder for this, but I've folded it in about a 1/3 to 2/3 ratio. I'm putting that loop down along, okay? Am I in the right place for you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting it down along my leather, gripping that loop. I'm right-handed, so I'm gripping it with my left hand. And now with my right hand, I'm going to take that long tail and wrap this whole thing. And this is where I kind of switch hands to open up this loop. And see how I'm just wrapping over the leather and the loop. This is an old sailor's knot, one I learned from our class director at the bead shop many, many years ago. Yeah, question, Grace?
So Karen wants to know what the colors of the cords are, which we will get to. But
yes.
We have a special guest on our
feed. Who's here?
Linnea's here.
Linnea! So
Yeah.
a lot of you
Hi,
guys,
Linnea.
hi Linnea. A lot of you may remember Linnea from beadshop.com. She did a lot of our education here on beadshop.com. She has some wonderful projects, including the Pathways cuff and the dancer earrings.
Yeah.
So it's great to see you, Linnea.
Yeah, she's up in Oregon now.
Yeah, you're much missed and much loved. So to finish this loop off, see how I've got the loop here? I just bring the end of my thread around, put it through that loop, and as I'm going to switch hands here, remember our little friend who was hanging out over here with just hanging out, just waiting with nothing to do? Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to tighten that loop. I'm going to use my pliers, and you're wondering, Kate, why is the tape still on your pliers? Well, it was on my pliers from Wednesday's. Watch Wednesday's broadcast from last week, and you'll know why I have tape on my pliers. So see, I tighten it up, tighten it up. Yeah, from this week, from this past Wednesday, the Lalique looming. There we go. And I just tighten it, and that little loop pulls underneath this wrap. I have to hold it kind of tight under my fingers, but you can see it goes underneath. I can pull it out so it's nice and straight, and then I give both of these a little tug, and that connection lives underneath this wrapped thread. And so, let me even it all up here. And so now when I come in to clip off these ends, nothing's going to happen. You see that? Done and done. There we go. Okay, so I could do 2 strands of this leather if I wanted. I don't know if I felt like it, but it just depends on what you like, what the finished result is that you might like. So the way I'm going to finish this, you guys, is I'm going to put this all together in my bead stopper, And so we can kind of, yeah, zoom out a little bit so everybody could see this part. I'm going to hold this all together with my trusty bead stopper. Oh, thanks, Grace. You went to check the color.
Yeah,
I know that's what you did.
I knew what it was, but I had to be sure.
Yeah.
It's popsicle orange.
Popsicle orange.
And you didn't use any glue for the silk wrap.
No, no glue for the silk wrap. This is the coral, I think.
That one is coral.
Coral.
4mm, because that's the 5mm
Right.
in the same color.
And then this is just the natural 4-ply
Okay.
Irish wax linen. That's what I used here.
And sorry, Debbie came in late, and this is our strawberry lemonade mix.
Yeah,
that
the
we're
strawberry
featuring
lemonade
with
lemonade
2 metal
mix.
beads that
Yeah.
we threw in.
And what I'll do, you guys, I will post this up with a follow-up on our blog, the bead table. You can go to beadshop.com, scroll down to the bottom, there's a link to our blog, or you can just go, and of course, Geeta, bless you, just did the link to the blog. But I'll have a wrap-up. And those of you who are looking for the wrap-up from last week's Many Moods of Thread, it's also up there as well. So you can see I put it all together with the bead stopper, so I can kind of play around with it a little bit here. And I'm just going to double check my length. So let me get my good old tape measure. And I can see, yeah, it's about, I don't know, about 19 inches worth of beading. So with the closure and the macrame and the loops and stuff, it's going to come out to about 21 inches. Or, yeah, about 21. So let me show you how I'm going to finish it. See on the back here of this button, this Odyssey piece, see how I have everything coming through the shank of that button. I was thinking that maybe I might use this plain and simple, we call it, our toggle clasp, and it would work, but notice how the loop on the toggle is a little small. So what I would do is I would do this part around a jump ring and then connect that jump ring to this toggle if I wanted to use a clasp. But you guys know how wild we are about our check glass buttons. And I went over into the fulfillment room, and Cara tossed this one to me and said, Kate, use this. And I said, Cara, you are so right. So this is our Art Deco Dragonfly button. And all you would do here, the way the copper, yeah, isn't it? Isn't that it? The way I'd put these through, and you can see, you can go to our Odyssey project to see how this is closed, but I just want to show you this real quick here. I'm going to take off the bead stopper. I'm going to maybe isolate 2 of these thicker strands, put it through my big eye needle, and slide them on through the shank of the button. Let's see if they'll slide on through. There it goes. So being a little.
So this was a collapsible eye, or the big eye?
It was the big eye I used, just because it was really easy to get all of these thick threads through the big eye. It's a little more difficult to get them out of the big eye, but there we go, there's that. So can you see how that got through there? And I used the thickest threads first, because now I'm just going to pull them in groups of 2 by 2, right? So I'm going to do the Chinese knotting cord ones next. Through the big eye. You could also use the collapsible eye, I guess.
No,
you
just
could,
wondering.
But I like this big eye needle.
I think that's actually smarter, and I don't really use it that
See
often,
that?
but that's an appropriate use
Yeah.
for the big eye needle.
I always have a few of the big eye needles in my stash, and I'll be honest, Gracie, sometimes with the big eye needles, I've loomed with them too.
Really?
With big beads. Like I think the first, the debut project I did,
Oh, really?
it may say that we use the collapsible eye needle, but I actually might have in real life tried and used the big eye because it's so easy to thread. See how all of these are just coming right through?
Well,
And I'll do this last pair.
let me just say this.
Yes.
Raquel says that, she says, haha, we think alike. I ordered that button with the strawberry mix.
Yes, Raquel, and great job. You and Cara and I think alike.
And Ginger says she only looms with the big eye needle.
Really interesting. Yeah, I really like it. So
It's
see,
long too, which is nice.
yeah, it's long and I think it's easy to handle. See, I've got a lot of good amount of thread, or a lot of space there, and so I'll just slide this through. So I like putting them through kind of 2 by 2 so that I don't have a huge bunch, you know, that I'm trying to finagle through.
It doesn't come through cleanly, and then it has this random.
Yeah,
It kind of comes in like this. I don't know how to
yeah,
describe
well,
that with words.
right. And well, if I were trying to bend this over and pull all of this through the big eye needle, this would just be too bulky, or rather through the eye of the shank of the button, I guess. This would just be too bulky. But when you send them through a few at a time, they go through pretty nicely. So then, whoops, except there's always one. Let me see if I can just poke it through here. Nope, I need that big eye needle. There's always one straggler. I thought that guy was in there, but he wasn't. So let's just send him through. You go do what I tell you. There we go. So now I would kind of figure out how much length I needed. I'd play around with this a little bit. And then I'd silk wrap it closed just like this one. So I'd bring it around and I'd silk wrap. Okay? Then on this side, I'll pull everything over. On this side, I have a lot of extra. And what I do here is essentially the way that we start the Odyssey, we actually start it with the loop. And we have a long length of thread, and we macrame in the middle, and then we fold it over and macrame here. What I would do essentially is I would macrame a length like this, pull it around, making sure it's the right length for the button, and then I'd macrame below to catch it. And that's just how I do it. Pretty simple. And then I would make sure that whatever macrame loop I had here would be the right size for the button. Okay, but that's really all she wrote. Pretty simple. Oh, and I forgot to add in the leather, but I could do that too.
Debbie wants to know if you named this.
No, I don't know. Friday. A Friday's Fiesta. I don't know. It looks kind of cool though, doesn't it?
It's really nice.
There we go. Can we see that? And I'll finish this up and we'll post it on the blog. But I think it's a great way to use, let me just tell you what we've used one more time. Just one tube of, and I've still got leftovers.
Oh yeah.
This is everything I have left over still in this little dish. I've got them left over. So my tube is empty, but I've got this much left. Then we use one package of Chirahishi, one strand with this much left over of the little shadows in gold, and one dragonfly button, pale pink, and then the orange, popsicle orange, coral, and come over here, stop giving me attitude, little Irish wax linen, the Irish wax linen, one basket of those. Yep.
So Rasha says you could use the extra seal-on to wrap, I guess, the finishing.
Oh, I sure could. I could do the macrame with either my seal-on or my Chinese knotting cord.
And we have a few names in the mix too.
Okay.
We have, and Ginger says you can make earrings and a bracelet with the
Yeah.
leftovers. Lynn says Pink Sunset.
Oh.
Another Lynn says Strawberry Sundae. And
Oh.
Trish calls it Friday Chill. And
Oh.
Kim calls it Creamsicle.
Oh.
And then Lorraine says, I think July Fireworks.
Oh, I like all of those. I'll pick a name and I'll name it on the blog.
Sounds good.
I love it. We should go to you guys often when we need
Yeah,
names for our projects. That was great. You just made my day a lot easier, you guys. All right. Well, I think that wraps up. Yep.
Want to talk about the metal bead sale one more time?
Oh, yeah, I will. It kind of wraps up our Free Tip Friday. Just as a reminder, and let's make sure that we've got our coupon code right this time, Grace.
So it's not a coupon code for the metal beads.
Right,
It's
no, for
on
the metal
sale.
bead. Yeah, the metal beads are just on sale at 10% on our website when you go to beadshop.com, and that sale runs through the weekend. And then, if you've checked your newsletters, you guys, you've got a little 15% off, what we call it. We call it a little kind of a bead refresh sale, and your code is refresh15.
Yes.
And you just put that in the coupon code box, and it'll knock an extra 15% off. You can also check out, if you haven't, check out our summer steals category, you guys. You can also stack that with our store-wide coupon, and that there's some, Jen has thrown some amazing deals in there, just things that we have overstock of and stuff. So it's a great shopping opportunity for you there. Yep, question?
And just a reminder, this is living on our blog, right?
Yeah, this is going to live on the blog after the broadcast. I'm going to go straight from here. I'm going to finish this up, hand it to Grace. She'll photograph it. And how do we get newsletters? That's a great question. So Debbie and all of you who are out there who don't get our newsletter, if you go to beadshop.com, on our front page, you scroll down. It's kind of down on the right-hand side, and it says newsletter, and it says sign up, and you leave your information there, and you'll be on our newsletter list. We send out so many great offers and a lot of great communication with our customers via our newsletters. They all stay private. Your information stays private. We don't sell it or give it away, so you can rest assured that you will only receive information from us. So that's my story. And now I'm distracted. Look at this cute little bird just he just left. Cute little bird just landed outside. It's so summery. I love it. All right, so Wednesday, you guys, Janice is going to be here with me. We're going to do an amazing color study project. She's so excited to see all of you, and I know that you guys are excited to see her. Thanks, Grace, for doing such great moderating today. We always think that Free Tip Friday is going to be so fast and easy, and then it becomes a whole thing. But I'm super stoked that you guys like this project, and I'm just in love with this seed bead mix. So you guys did a great job with that.
Thank you.
So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
It's a great Free Tip Friday.
Yeah. All right, you guys have a great creative weekend. Stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you on Facebook Live on Wednesday. See you soon.